Mr. Speaker, this is in their case, it's unevenly applied because it doesn't ever go through a system with codified laws. What it goes through is the court of public opinion. And guess who gets to decide that? The majority, Mr. Speaker. Yeah. Now, let's talk about the value of religious authenticity. Come on, boys, you're going to love this. Because essentially they did this. They came up here and said, this is cute, right? They go, we're going to give you a shopping list of other things that people might believe in. And therefore, since those things can get offended and people don't get too insulted at that, therefore, religion is exactly like that. A, you've been completely ignorant of the people that live in your very own lives. Because I don't think your parents, your cousins, or anyone else, anyone in this room could easily say that if I tell someone that I think they voted the wrong way, it's the same thing to say I think Jesus was a damn pedophile and he had long hair so he was gay too. So, that's the difference, right? People get upset by that. But you see, they don't want to admit that. But more so than that, people live their lives on this shit, Mr. Speaker. People take their lives on a day-to-day basis. The decisions they make are based on it. Now, I might not think much of it, right? But it doesn't mean I should go out there and diss on it. So more than that, we say, let's draw a parallel. Let's draw a parallel to something else everyone believes in. And I'd like to draw a parallel to the nation state. Look at it. I mean, honestly, the only difference between Penang and Singapore is the fact that firstly you won't get diarrhea from eating food here. But more than that, Mr. Speaker, everyone believes this is a different country. They believe it's a different country. Yet you're willing to tell people to stop burning flags, to respect the national anthem, and the symbols and emblems of the state. You're willing to tell every 18-year-old in this country that he has to learn how to kill and possibly die for this state, Mr. Speaker. Don't come and tell me that some symbols don't mean more than others. Because they do. And religion is core to many people's identities. True, Mr. Speaker, we say this propagates emotional environment violence. But thank you, because you always like to point it out.
Sir, so your criteria for when a state should step in and ban something is when it's important enough to me?
No, when it's important enough to people on the basis that it forms a core part of their identity. Your side tried to prove it's not core to their identity. I've demonstrated it is. Secondly, on the idea of emotional violence, because fundamentally we say this, their basis for saying is, as long as it doesn't cause physical violence, we're not going to do anything about it. We say that reduces the burden on the state, because we say fundamentally the state has to extend its wealth as far as possible to maximize the happiness of people. Now I know what they're going to say. I feel happy when I get to place on religion. We say this, what is more valuable to society? The ability for someone to practice something they believe in peace, not causing offense to anyone else, but not having anyone else to offend them, or someone to be able to mouth off against religion. Because we think that the distinction of value in this discourse here, they recognize it as well. But more so, we say the free market of ideas that they talk about doesn't work. A, because minorities aren't going to be able to say things as loudly and as many times as the majority. And this is an opening. Secondly though, do you really want to live in a society, and this goes to your engagement point, where all our discourse surrounds us responding to haters and bigots? Because every time you encourage this behavior, Barack Obama is going to say something about it. You don't get to move beyond those issues. Our engagement will be stuck in the gutter, Mr. Speaker. And we say, that's not the kind of world this opposition wants to live in. But then we say more to that. What you allow to happen in this case is you reverse the role, the oppressor-victim complex. Because essentially, with your case, you're saying that the guy who gets up there and insults is the one that needs to be protected. The one that is hurt, and yes, Mr. Speaker, insults to religion do hurt. That's why people get upset. It's hurtful to be said that the person you believe in is someone who advocates terrorism. It's hurtful to say that your religion is full of hate and wants to treat other people badly. More than that, we say, Mr. Speaker, you're saying that guy's alright. That guy's right. We should protect him. You are the one who's being oversensitive. You are the one who doesn't belong on our side. We also say it's the first step to systemic opposition. Systemic oppression. Because insults, right, in Nazi Germany was how it started with the Jews, and they were a race and religion. Because when you essentially say that someone's feelings don't matter, when you say I don't care if I hurt their feelings, you're saying I don't care about the fundamental part that makes them human. Because animals don't have feelings, but people do. Hurting people's feelings, Mr. Speaker, and saying it's alright, and blanketing under fear of religion is the first step to having a majority that says we're desensitized to the isolation of this community. Finally, we say in terms of engagement and moving forward, the debate never moves to anything constructive when you're forever talking about how someone hates you and responding to that. So for those reasons, Mr. Speaker, for the kind of country, for the kind of world you want to live in and I want to live in, we are proud to oppose.
Speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 13 seconds. I thank the member of closing opposition for his speech. Now I'd like to call upon the government whip to sum up the case for his team and the bench.
Thankfully, I don't have to deal explicitly with Tate's extension, because by and large it was exactly what opening opposition did, except much, much better. So the three issues I want to talk about in this debate are, firstly, I want to talk about the practical issue. What actually happened? Do we get the sort of sensationalized, hate-driven culture that Tate believes in, or do we get a more rational discourse, which is what side government stood for? Second, I want to talk about the principle, the extension that came up in Alex's speech and Tate failed to deal with for the second time this tournament. And thirdly, Mr. Speaker, I want to talk about religious groups themselves. Again, something that Alex talked about and Tate patently ignored. But before I go on, there's one thing I just have to point out here. The analysis underlying opposition bench is that the majority are not only bigots, but they're stupid. Because when you hear a bigoted speech, most of us know when people are being idiotic, bigoted, xenophobic, or homophobic, Mr. Speaker. It's readily identifiable, and most people don't identify with those people. In fact, we'd rather trust the majority to hear this and say, you know what, I don't like that. I think you're a bigot, and I think you're racist. And we think that's your freedom to offend those people as well, Mr. Speaker, and that's part of what's in play. So I think part of, the right to offend is you will be offended back at you, Mr. Speaker. We will criticise you for what you've done wrong. This goes very nicely on to my first idea, the idea of practical harms. No, so